Hi, how are you?
Morning.
Can you
Good.
hear?
How are you, Lynn?
I'm good. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to join you today.
Of course. It was very nice meeting you. It's freezing today.
Oh, well, where's that beautiful butterfly necklace? I just couldn't take my eyes off of it the other day.
I know what you like now.
I know, yeah, well, put it in your will that there's somebody that you know now that
Okay.
would love to have that necklace. Yeah, you have
Oh,
very
dear.
good taste, my dear.
You too. I'll be right back. I need to find a pen.
So, John, I don't think I've met you, and nice to have this opportunity.
Nice to meet you. I've met a lot of your members.
Oh, yes, I know. I think Hallie has talked about you. Sarah's talked about you. I feel like I know you.
Hallie's been a fantastic neighbor.
Oh, so I didn't realize you lived close to her. So are you right in the hood, so to speak?
Well, she's my next door neighbor.
Oh, so no wonder
Beside.
she. So yeah, so no wonder she has the inside scoop on things. So anyway, yeah. Well, so are you expecting more people today, or?
Yeah, there'll be the members and of the board.
So, well, I'm going to be a good listener today. So I hope not to be one of these kind of aggravations that you have to put up with. So
This is really laid back.
oh, good. Well, that's what I was hoping. So
Really.
Oh, well, I will remain silent here and let the others have a little greeting opportunity here. So anyway, again, thank you for letting me be here.
Bill, it's
Okay.
Leslie. Ashley's having a little trouble with her laptop, so she's going to have to call in. So she'll let me know when she's ready.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't think I've ever been on a Zoom when it's this quiet. So we'll have a little French accordion music to kind of wake us up. I went to Whole Foods a couple of days ago, and there was some people out with their little can hoping for some donations, and they had amplified this French music, accordion music, and it was all over the parking lot. And actually, it was kind of fun. But then after I got out of the store, they were gone. So I don't know, maybe somebody chased them away. But actually, it was enjoyable. It was. I've forgotten how fun that music is. It kind of really makes you feel perky and happy.
Okay, Susan and I are here. Sorry, I apologize.
Okay, sounds great. So do we have everybody here? Do we have Tara? Are you dialed in?
I am.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll have a call to order and roll call.
Hang on just for 1 second, Phil. I guess this is the morning of technical difficulties. They're having trouble getting the recording to start. I
Okay,
apologize.
so we'll wait. We'll hold off.
Thank you, sorry.
Has anyone gone by the library other than Alexandra and Ashley? The beautiful yellow freesias are starting to really make a big scene. So if you haven't been by lately, I would recommend it. The blue ceanosis is starting to bloom as well. So it's quite a beautiful spot right now.
Okay, so Alex, somehow you're the host of the meeting. Would you make either Leslie or Sebastian? Sebastian would be the best person. Would you make him the host? Not sure how it happened. I'm happy with you being in charge of everything, but you're the host.
Yes, I will
Thank you.
make Sebastian the host.
Yes. There we go. Now we'll get it.
I don't know how that happened either.
No one knows how it happened. Like I said, I'm happy if you're in charge.
Looks like we're good to go now. Thank you.
Okay. So if we're ready, we'll go ahead and call to order and do the roll call here.
Don Krischer,
Here.
Susan Murphy,
Here.
Bill Pardue,
Here.
Tara Twomey. Here. All present. Thank you.
All right. So we'll have public appearances if we have anybody that'd like to speak now. Okay. How about announcements from the trustees? Okay. Announcements from the library director.
I just wanted to let you all know we are working very hard on filling vacant positions so that we can get our library hours expanded back to what they were pandemic levels. So that is in progress, and we're looking at this spring for a return to those hours. I don't have any firm dates yet because humans are involved, which impacts start dates and trainings and things like that. But as soon as I have dates that are firm for the expansion of those hours, I will release them to the board and to the public.
Okay, sounds great.
So Ashley, this is Tara. So basically, we're aiming to go back to 6 days a week? Question mark.
Yeah. So what I'm looking at is we're getting close to hopefully filling our vacant full-time positions, and then I'll look at bringing on some more part-time people. It would be 6 days a week, and then the last thing I would probably do is bring back Sunday hours. Depending on how the schedule works out, we may just have slightly reduced hours where it's 11 to 6 in both buildings rather than 10 to 6, and then no Saturday hours in both buildings. But I need to map out that schedule and figure out the timing of when everybody starts. So there might be, to start off with, just a slight reduction of 5 or 6 hours, but we will bring those back as soon as we can, along with the Sunday hours.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Ashley?
Nope, that is it as far as announcements.
Okay, so we'll go to number 3, receive a report from the library, the Carmel Public Library Foundation on recent activities.
Thank you. Good morning, Library Board Trustees. CPLF and the library met with the Garden Club, Lynn Carmichael, and it was a very good meeting. As we begin to develop the connectivity project, we were looking for their input as well. So we're really excited about that. And also thinking about a project manager who'll be engaged once the project details are confirmed. So we're still kind of in the planning phases and sourcing phases of that project, but we're really excited about it. Our marketing efforts are now focused on the remaining CPLF Community Night programs, as well as our annual event, the Futurist Edition with Global Strategic Futurist Parag Khanna. And that will be on April 27th at Sunset Center. CPLF has also initiated a book club for our speaker's recent book, which is called Move, the Forces That Are Uprooting Us. And anyone can join that. You just need to send me an email with a request in the subject line. Carmel Magazine is for the first time a media sponsor. We're really excited about that, as well as KZU and House of 8 Media. for this event. And tickets for the fundraiser can now be purchased on the CPLF website as well as Sunset Center. Special pricing for military and students are available. And the event this year will be live streamed, so you can also view it virtually. And you can get all of this information on our website, carmelpubliclibraryfoundation.org. The donor salute, as mentioned during the last meeting, will not be held in person this year, but instead we will be mailing a frameable watercolor of the library by artist Jacqueline Coleman. And that will be sent soon as an acknowledgement to our donors. We're also continuing to identify new board members and finance committee prospects and would welcome your referrals. And lastly, our next community night with the library program is featuring local Carmel Valley author Meredith May, and her published memoir is called The Honey Bus. That's on March 9th, and that will be at Carpenter Hall at Sunset Center at 7 p.m. And that's what I have. Does anyone have any questions? All right.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, for the update.
I was just going to say that the last library thing on MJ Murphy was a big success and very well.
Thank you. We have had a really great success this year. Really quickly, we raised money through the Monterey County Gives campaign for both for the live streaming of these programs. And we had 90 people in attendance who stayed for the whole video. And all of the videos of all of the programs are available on our website. So anyone can view any of the programs at any time. So, and thank you for your comment on that.
Okay, Alex, thank you. And we'll move on to number 4, approval of the minutes for the January 26, 2022 regular meeting. Anybody have any changes that need to be made to the minutes?
No,
I didn't see any changes. I would move that we accept the minutes.
I second it.
Okay. We have if we could get a vote on the approval of the minutes for the
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Bill Pardue. I think Bill froze. Tara Twomey.
January 20. And back. Table.
Sorry, this
Yes.
is Tara. I'm a yes, but I'm not sure if something else is happening.
I think Phil had frozen and now he's catching up.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
see.
approved. Thank you.
Okay, receive the librarian's report for January 2022. Hello?
So for our librarian report, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So in January, I think just of note, we had the holidays, of course, in November, December. Pre-pandemic, these were always quieter months for us. We would see kind of a downtick in kids circulation in September after kids went back to school. Our levels kind of normalized, and then we'd see that downtick after the or during the holidays. We're bouncing back with aplomb despite our limited hours in terms of people coming back to the library after the holidays, working within our wonky hours to get their holds and check out books from the library, which is heartening. And I'm looking forward to being back to our normal hours, because I think we'll see a return over time to our close to, at least the first year, our pre-pandemic levels. That is the big thing I have of note. The other thing, well, one more thing is just the public Wi-Fi use continues to trend pretty high. With the pandemic, we saw a jump up there, and I think we'll continue to see that as well as people use the outdoor space at our library, which ties in nicely with the connectivity. Main library garden.
Okay.
Are there any questions about any of the numbers that are in the librarian's report?
I
Susan,
have one question.
go ahead, John.
I noticed it seems an awful lot of the new people signing on to the library are from the surrounding area. Seems like a lot more, are we finding a lot more families moving into the area in the woods and places like that?
Yes. So we're lots of change in the overall peninsula community. We're about the same levels, and this is the same that I've seen from in talking with other library directors in the area in terms of population that we serve. Nobody, with the exception of towns and jurisdictions like San Juan Bautista or San Benito that are more remote and rural, those libraries tend to serve, 80, 90% of that core population only. But here on the peninsula, we all share out our library's collections. So when you poll Monterey, you'll see the same types of statistics from them in terms of patron usage not being within the 93940, for instance. Most people have multiple library cards, and you see that when people come in to check out books and hand you a Monterey County card or a Monterey Public card, they're using all the different library services. And I'm hoping once we get more staffing in place and other libraries do as well, we can return to the exploring that project we had started pre-pandemic of looking at resource sharing between the libraries, because it would make sense, I think.
Well, thank you.
Susan, any questions? Or Ashley?
Susan doesn't have questions now.
Okay, Tara?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to number 6, the receive the treasurer's report and approve the check register for January 2022.
Okay, we're still around 36,000 under budget. The things we can look at right now are e-resources is right on budget. And we're under budget in programs and maintenance. But I don't know about the maintenance. That may come down next year. We have to keep the same amount of money because we're going to be using the library much more, and the copiers, self-check machines may give us problems because they have really not been used that much for the last 2 years. So I think right there, we're looking good. And we're also under budget on a few other things, but as of now, it looks really, really good. If you saw my report, I kind of tried to put down what I thought was the reasons and run it through Leslie, and she thought that they agreed with me of what the things were. And as to the check register, I've looked that over, and that looks really good.
All right, Susan, any questions?
No questions from Susan.
Okay, Tara, any questions or comments on your end?
No, I don't have any questions. And so if you don't have any questions, then I would move that we approve the check register.
I'm
as
sorry,
presented.
I didn't hear that. I received you broken. It may be me. Could you say that again, Tara? In the check register?
Yeah, I said I didn't have any questions, and that unless you had further questions, I would move that we approve the check register
Okay.
as presented.
Okay, can I get a second on approving the check register?
I'll second it.
Okay, we can have a vote to approve the check register for January 2022.
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy, Bill Pardue,
Yes.
Tara Twomey.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Okay. So we're on to approval of an amendment to the Harrison Memorial Library Board of Trustees bylaws updating the timing of the election of officers.
All right, so this item was before you all last month to amend our bylaws as to the appointment of, at the election of our officers, the president, the vice president, and the treasurer. Because the city clerk updated the municipal code, changing the appointment of board and commission members from October to May, that impacted when we appoint the bylaws. So after discussion at last month's meeting and review of the bylaws, it was settled that we would do our appointment of officers in election of officers occurring in June, with new officers taking their seat at the July meeting. And the bylaws have been amended to reflect that discussion by the Board of Trustees.
Okay, so what I'd like to do now is just go around the board members, just make sure there's no, that everybody concurs with what we're doing, and then we can go from there. So Susan, any comments or questions, or you good?
No, if nobody has any, I can move that we approve the bylaws, the changes in the bylaws.
Okay.
If somebody else has questions or.
All right. If John and Tara don't have any questions, if I can get a second.
I'll second it. I think it's good. I like it.
Okay. All right. So okay. Get a vote to approve an amendment to the Harrison Memorial Library Board of Trustees bylaws, updating the timing of the election of officers.
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Tara Twomey,
Yes.
Bill Pardue.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're to receive the City Council's fiscal year 2022-2023 budget calendar and discuss the library projects.
Okay, so as we kind of touched on our last meeting, the library, of course, has projects and opportunities to execute those projects through the city's capital improvement plan. One of the things that we are trying to work on and improve in terms of process for staff and Board of Trustees is to make sure that the board is making recommendations to the City Council on items that are related to the city's capital improvement plan. Currently on the city's capital improvement plan is the library master plan project. To date, no work has been completed on this, and the major work to start that project would be a request for proposals from architectural firms to develop a master plan for both of the library buildings, which would in turn give us an idea of some projects that could potentially be funded by donors or Monterey County Gives campaign or other opportunities like that going forward. In terms of that project, it would be staff's recommendation that the Board of Trustees recommend that the council carry over the library master plan to fiscal year 2023. At this point in the fiscal year, being at the end of almost February, knowing where we are in terms of hiring for both library staff and public works staff, this is a project that will need the oversight, some oversight of a project manager from the Public Works Department and that expertise. And that position is still in the process of being hired. I think it's doubtful we'll get an RFP out at the end of this fiscal year, by the end of this fiscal year. It would be nice to be wrong on that, but I think that's a realistic time frame in terms of what we're facing with workload. So that would be my recommendation, is that this project be carried over in the city's capital improvement plan. The other project that we're looking at is the Harrison Memorial Library Outdoor Connectivity Project, which was mentioned earlier by Alexandra. That project is smaller in scope, and I think that after talking with the Public Works Department on this and the Finance Department, because this project will be funded completely by outside donations, and we'll be working with Public Works and the Garden Club to get input on that. It does not need to, its scope does not need us to include it in the city's capital improvement plan. So that would be my recommendation there. In terms of the schedule, I've attached the city's council schedule as proposed. This is something that they approved at the beginning of February by resolution. Where we are right now is that they will be having a preliminary review of the 5-year capital improvement plan and a 5-year financial forecast. So this is just where they will be getting all the information from staff, asking questions about different projects, but no decisions will be made at that time. That meeting has not been set, but it will occur sometime during the week of March the 14th. And I will note too, it's not included on this calendar, but the week preceding that, which would be the week of March the 7th, so the week after the council meeting, on March the 10th, there will be a strategic planning session that the City Council will hold. It will be a hybrid meeting, and the council will be in person at Carpenter Hall. And they will be probably touching on the capital improvement plan, but other strategic goals that they have been going over. And an invite will be going out to all of the board and commission members to attend that meeting. So that will be forthcoming. So stay tuned on that, because these things, the strategic plan and the CIP, have kind of been separate, but there's some overlap there, and I think it would be useful for members of this board to attend or at least listen in on that strategic planning session. So getting back to this calendar, the week of March the 14th, the council will be discussing that 5-year capital improvement plan and the financial forecast, and at the regular meeting on April the 5th, they will be narrowing down which projects they want to start to fund. And this is kind of an ongoing process at that start point of where they kind of narrow things down. And they do that all through the budget season. I'm open to ideas in terms of how the board wants to make a recommendation, whether that's in writing, whether that is a representative of the board attending one of the meetings once a stance has been approved and agreed upon by this board. If it's something that's in writing that the board wants to work on, or an ad hoc committee, or however we decide to proceed, it might be, in terms of timing, more logical to present that recommendation at the April 5th meeting in terms of having it included in any city council documents. If the board wants it included in the official packet, or if correspondence is enough. So I will leave it to the board to kind of discuss, because there's all different kinds of ways to make recommendations to the council on these types of projects. I don't have anything that's standardized in terms of municipal code or policies. I will leave it there for you all.
Okay. Opening it up for discussion. Susan, do you have any comments at this stage?
No, not really.
John?
I would like to sort of see what ideas she has for the capital improvements. Is it handicap access? I think we've been talking about that, and some other improvements.
Okay. And Tara, do you have any comments on the capital improvements, or how we go about interacting with the city council? Or
yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah. Okay.
I do. So, so it seems to me that procedurally, at least, we should be doing both. That is, we should draft a letter. I think having things in writing to council is always helpful. I think having it included in the agenda packets is also helpful to the constituents. But I also think being present is also important. So I would think that we would want a two-pronged strategy, which is to memorialize kind of what we want to do go forward. And it sounds to me, Ashley, like we really have just two things on the list right now. I mean, I think there's we can certainly brainstorm more possibilities, but our focus is really on the library master plan. I think a lot comes out of that plan once it gets done, but that's kind of the first step to some of the other things that we've been talking about. And then the connectivity project, I think I don't know, Ashley, if we include it or not, given that it doesn't have to go through the process, but I think, again, keeping the council on kind of in tune with what we're doing and why we're doing things is helpful going forward. So I think we should have a two-pronged strategy. So that's my thought to begin with.
Okay. And so how do we, my thought is, how do we execute the two-pronged strategy? Because we have we should have a position as the board, but we need to, has to be discussed at these meetings in the open forum. And then do we vote on it as an agreement, or how do we come up with, under the parliamentary rules that we have, how do we come up with the opinion, and how do we codify it so we can go forward with it? So what is it, the Brown Act we don't want to get afoul with?
I'm just looking at the agenda. So the agenda today, the city council, I'm just looking at what we budget calendar and discuss. So I don't think we have a vote on, right, Ashley? That would be my interpretation of looking at the agenda, is that we're not scheduled to have, we didn't calendar a vote, so I'm not sure we can vote on something. But I think what we could do is develop a draft memo and come back at the next meeting. And when's our next meeting would be before the April council meeting.
Somebody
So
does go to, could be somebody who lives in the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea, because I think they would have more clout. And for instance, Phil or I, or Phil's president, who live outside the city limits. That's just my opinion. I think we should have somebody at the city council meeting as well as a letter.
And I think Tara, are you still there? I think we lost you.
no, I'm still here.
Oh, good. Okay. So this would be looking at this calendar and knowing, we meet the fourth Wednesday of the month, which is of course right before we're in the thick of agenda packet week right now for the city council for next week. My recommendation would be to schedule, if the Board of Trustees is amenable, is one, if there are a couple of people here willing to start drafting a memo with regards to this, we could form an ad hoc committee, or Phil can appoint an ad hoc committee to start the work on that memo. I would suggest that we have a quick special meeting the week after that strategic planning session, maybe even during the week of March the 14th, sometime before the next city council meeting and before our next trustees meeting, so that we can vote to approve the memo and, decide on who would be attending the city council meeting.
Okay, so let me just, so what I think I heard was we need to have a quick ad hoc committee to come up with the memo, and then have a special meeting between now and the 14th to review and, if appropriate, approve the memo, and then get it to the 5-year CIP and the workshop the week of the 14th of March. Is that the timeline we're working toward? And then having the memo will be available, and we'll have somebody go or several people go in person to the April 5th meeting. Is that what you're recommending?
Yes.
Okay.
That sounds right to me. I'm happy to work with Ashley and anybody else on that memo.
And how many do we need to have in ad hoc committee? Do we need to actually have one, or if, I think Tara's volunteering to put it together. Is that a requirement, or can she?
I'm also happy to go solo with Ashley. Somebody else.
We don't need it. Yeah, we don't need it. We don't necessarily need an ad hoc committee. That's one path to take. But Tara and I can work on this together and bring it back to the board prior to that
right.
The week of March 14th.
Unless one of the other board members has a strong feeling, that's my preference, because it'll be quicker and more efficient and get us to where we want to be.
So then I think the other issue would be, so that's kind of procedure, kind of how the procedure works. The second question would be substance. And again, my sense is that we really have, and I guess the question is there anything else that we would want to include? And so let me start. So the first thing is rolling over the library master plan process. That seems to make sense to me. I agree with Ashley that given where our staffing levels, given kind of the fallout from the pandemic, given where we are in the budget year. I just don't see that happening this fiscal year for the city. So I think asking for that to get rolled over is kind of an easy, and it makes sense to me. So that's one. And then two, I guess I'm going back to Ashley on this, the issue of the connectivity project. What I heard you say was this doesn't need to go through the capital improvements projects process, but is it a good idea to include it in our, say, hey, while we don't think this needs to go through the process, we wanted to let you know what was going on, kind of thing. Does that also get included? And then third, I guess to the trustees would be, is there anything else, or to Alex or to Ashley, anybody, is there anything else that we think should go in that piece? I can't think of anything. So that's kind of three questions and my thoughts on all three.
Okay, so I think that go ahead, Ashley.
Oh, I was going to say, with regards to the connectivity project, I think there is a way we can let the council know that this is a project that, is small in scope, that we will be undertaking, and continues to demonstrate how well the Carmel Public Library Foundation and the community work together. And as with the Gathering Place, are good evidence of this public-private partnership in terms of projects done to support their rollover of the funds for the library master plan. Third, number one, because that made sense. It was the third thing.
Third thing was just anything else. Third thing was just, is there anything else?
Yeah, and anything else in terms of projects for the library building. We will be receiving a new generator at the park branch. That's a replacement project that'll happen this fiscal year. John had asked the question earlier about, ADA types of projects, and Tara, you pointed out that these are things that will come forward as part of the projects identified in the master plan. So at this point in time, that master plan will be key in dictating the future of projects here at both buildings for the library.
I have a question about, from a timing perspective, and also, the likelihood of this master plan getting carried over to next year as well. We had met as the Board of Trustees in the Carmel Public Library Foundation, so I wanted to know if the RFP could still be sought within this year, or is that changed, or is that not something that can go forward?
So drafting the RFP and getting it ready for the next fiscal year is something that can be worked on at this point in time through the spring. But in terms of the likelihood of actually expending funds and paying invoices, that part of it will likely occur in the next fiscal year. We can start work on the project, but it will be likely we do need to carry this over to the next fiscal year.
So for an RFP, the town of Carmel doesn't pay for the submissions. Those are the people competing for it, right? So we could do the RFP this year and release it. If the funds don't come through, you just cancel the RFP and you don't go forward. Is that something we can do?
Potentially, yes, that is something we can do.
Yeah. That way we're not waiting. And then if it doesn't come through, we just cancel it.
Yes.
You want to check with Public Works though, before we do that.
Yes, I will check with Public Works, but it would, at the very least, preparing the RFP for release, developing the calendar that goes along with that in terms of, openings of things, appointing of things, interviews. Even when you have a very tight schedule for these things, it does take a few months to schedule those things out so that people have enough time to respond. There's enough time for review. But we can start that process this spring.
Okay.
Want to move it forward.
And Alex, is that consistent with what?
Yeah, that makes. I mean, I wish that we could have kept it in this year, but it makes a lot of sense because Ashley and I have been through the process with the other space, and it does take time to send them out and to receive back, and all of that process. So that makes sense. the timing. Mhm.
Okay.
So then I would say that if I guess to any of the other trustees, are there any other items? John mentioned ADA. I think Ashley addressed that. And if there are no other items, then I will just work with Ashley to work on those two things that we've talked about, the master plan and the connectivity project.
I have no other items.
I don't either.
And
No.
Susan?
No.
I will ask Leslie then to send out a doodle poll to all of you to determine the best time for a special meeting. Review the memo and.
Sounds good. All right. Any other comments on the City Council's fiscal year budget calendar and library projects?
I only have one thing. I think we really have to do them both together, even though the foundation's paying for it. In this town, is have everything out in the open, that everybody knows what we're doing. The council's fully aware of it and all that, and people at the council meetings will hear about it.
So I think that what we need to do is we need to move on to the next one where we talk about it in detail. And I think Ashley may have some background that weighs on how we go forward on this, if I may suggest that. Recommend that, I should say. John, would that work for you?
That's fine. I would just try to make everybody happy and understand what's going on.
I think the issue is that you want to make sure that you're not offering things up for decision that don't need to have a decision made. Because in that sense, you can get bogged down and make no progress forward.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
And Ashley's been talking to the Public Works. I think she'll talk about that when we get to the next topic. Is that fair, Ashley?
That is fair. Thank you, Bill.
All right, given that, is there, do we need to have any further discussion on this item of the budget calendar and library projects? All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Let me get down there, which is provide the Board of Trustees with an update regarding the Harrison Memorial Library Outdoor Connectivity Project. And I think for this one, we have a representative for the Carmel Garden Club sitting in to for this part of the presentation. Is that correct? Yep.
That is correct, Phil. So we have Lynn Carmichael, who's the president of the Carmel-by-the-Sea Garden Club, here with us today. As Alex mentioned earlier in her announcement, she and I and Marnie Waffle, who's a planner with the Carmel-by-the-Sea Planning Department, we all met on Friday morning to discuss the outdoor connectivity project. The Garden Club was kind enough to pull their thoughts together about the staff report that I'd written and the sketch of the potential for the project that you all received at the last Board of Trustees meeting, which was very helpful to hear their perspective and see what their thoughts are. I'm sure you all know they've been a very long-standing community group here in Carmel-by-the-Sea. They take care of the Harrison Memorial Library Garden, but also Piccadilly Park and the lovely garden in front of City Hall. And in particular, the garden in front of the Harrison Memorial Library is a popular spot for both locals and tourists. It's one of the only green spaces on Ocean Avenue. I can tell you, having worked on the reference desk at the Harrison for a lot of years, we have a map of the garden and the plantings as up to date as possible, because we get lots of questions about what plants are what and where can they get them. So it is a popular thing here. The connectivity project was developed in response to some of the challenges we were seeing with the pandemic and people and rethinking access to the library. So looking at providing some additional seating for people who are interested in group meetings, which happen in the garden, working on their laptops. So it's twofold. It's not only the seating, but also providing places for people to plug in devices, charge their devices, which we all know is, especially traveling, not fun to find yourself with almost zero battery anywhere. And in a spot where people are looking for respite and a little break, the garden is ideal for this. So we met with the Garden Club, and Alex and I shared our thoughts with Lynn and looking at where we could put potential seating, which Alex and I worked hard to make sure we identified places with minimal planting there that would require the least amount of disturbance to any of our plants, and looking at installing visually low impact places for connectivity that would be in line with where we currently have lighting, low lighting in the garden in the evenings. So the major goal of this project is to ensure that we do have input from the Garden Club, but that this project, just as we worked hard on with the gathering place, it fits with the Harrison Library aesthetic. It is leaning towards the future, but also respecting our past and our historicity. I also met with the Public Works staff to restart the conversations about this project. It has been put on hold for a long time to get a better understanding of the level of work that would be required based on our current scope. The big thing with Public Works would be, and getting their input would be, where would we and how would we install the discrete charging stations? And the initial assessment with the Public Works staff indicates that once we have a plan developed, and especially if we're going to look at some project management with the Carmel Public Library Foundation, minimal oversight will be needed by the Public Works staff. And that's a reason why, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think this will need to be included or approved as part of the capital project. I included, again, the preliminary visual sketches for reference. Nothing has been decided in terms of placement of tables or what those will look like, or chairs, or what the discrete charging stations will look like. Again, the goal is minimal visual impact and in keeping with the current aesthetic of the garden. And I'm hoping that as we work our way through the spring, this project will really pick up some steam. And I'm looking forward to working with the Carmel-by-the-Sea Garden Club to have their input and thoughts on what this project will look like, and Alex on another project. And I will open it up for Alex's comments and then Lynn's comments as well.
Okay, good. Okay, Alex?
I would just echo Ashley's comments. I think I even wrote down a quote that I will quote you now, Ashley: leaning towards the future with a respect for the past. It's a really a wonderful way to envision this project, I think, because obviously we value what the Garden Club has done and the aesthetics of the library. And yet we also want to acknowledge what, the community's needs are and how we can best serve all of the library patrons. So I really don't have anything else to add, except that I'm excited to move this forward, and also just agree with just the least impact and in keeping with the aesthetics, down to extending out current stone and not moving what we don't have to, to change. And I'm excited about it. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Alex. Hey, Lynn, thanks for showing up at the meeting today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I do really appreciate your concern for all the work we've done and how we want minimal impact on whatever is done. And but at the same time, we're happy to work with the foundation and try to make the library better used in the way of connectivity and places that they can enjoy sitting. And so I just feel really encouraged, as does the rest of our club, that we will be included with decisions. And most of all, I'm just glad that at this point, the minimal is kind of a key element in this project, because when I first looked at what was looked at as a possibility back when the COVID first began, it was a lot. And I kind of threw up a red flag for our club, thinking, oh no, what's going to happen to our plants? What's going to happen to our aesthetics? And what's going to happen with all the feelings that we have about a respite place and whatnot. But I think that's kind of come and gone after talking to Alex and Ashley and Marnie. I feel much better, and I feel like I can go to my garden club and just reassure them that we're all in this together, and we're going to make it a project that will be something that all of us can appreciate and be respectful of. So anyway, that's what I have to say.
Well, thank you, Lynn. Susan, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I wish that, I guess that we could use the money that they're going to put into First Murphy, those bricks that they're selling. I wish we could use that money and the bricks maybe for the library connectivity project instead of what they're doing with First Murphy. But that's my own opinion, and it probably has nothing to do with anything.
So the project that Susan's referring to is an initiative by Leadership Carmel. If you all remember last spring, the first cohort of Leadership Carmel, which is a class that's put on by the Carmel Chamber of Commerce to introduce new members to the community to the workings of, politics and networking and all of the fun things that happen here in the city. The first cohort did the Hearts Project. You'll remember one of them was in the garden at the main library. One of them was at the First Murphy House. They were all over town. And this is the second cohort, and they're working on bricks for First Murphy House. And I think, thankfully, we've got sufficient funds to complete the connectivity project. Okay. But these are two separate things. But I appreciate that, because Leadership Carmel, it may be an opportunity to work with Leadership Carmel, not necessarily on the Harrison Memorial Library Garden in the future, but other projects we may think about partnering with. They're doing good and interesting things and raising money for scholarships and things like that in our local groups like the Carmel Youth Center.
Thank you. John?
I think it's a great project, and I'm very happy to see that the foundation and the garden club are going to work together, and I think it'll be fantastic. I think it's a great area down there, and I've used it a lot of time during the pandemic to meet friends. It's a great place, and I'm happy we're moving forward.
Okay, John, thanks. Tara?
I don't have anything further. Ditto on what John said, and thank you to Lynn and the Garden Club for working with us on this project. I think that's kind of what it's about when we talk about community projects. So Lynn, thanks for coming today, and thank you for the leadership of the Garden Club in this project.
Okay, thanks, Tara. I think Ashley's point was that this is separate from a capital improvement because we're not asking for the city to pay for something. So this is not a decision for the city to expend funds on. So, but this is something where the city will notice as things change. And to John's point how do we, or do we even need to, and I think we probably do, let the city council know, or at least the mayor know that we're doing that. We're planning on this, and